Films, the home of high-powered, high-voltage motion picture entertainment. With the screen's biggest spectacles, brightest stars, and boldest lineup of explosive entertainment. We're taking motion picture excitement over the edge and your box office over the top. We're Cannon Films, and we're dynamite.
What certainly becomes of The Brokenhearted, as Hospital Massacre was another Cannon Films run around the holiday horror machine that ran rampant in the 80s. After seeing their last film, New Year's Evil, as well as Paramount Pictures' My Bloody Valentine, have an unwelcome debut into the horror canon, wanted out of horror. It was too late. They already had their next horror holiday film, Be My Valentine, awaiting its scheduled box office release. So to try to put a quick fix to a copycat horror theme based film, it was later renamed X-Ray overseas and later renamed Hospital Massacre in the US. I'm sorry, I'm starting to feel a little lovesick looking at the obvious. Sorry, you were just not my type. That leaves film having its only star bringing in any type of name recognition to the table is former Playboy playmate and ex-girlfriend who dated former Playboy Hugh Hefner throughout the 1970s, Barbie Benton. She would appear a total of 4 times on Playboy's main cover photo and would often co-host Playboy After Dark, which ran from 1969 to 1970. Her television appearances also included Hee Haw, The Love Boat, and Fantasy Island. Her only movie credit before Hospital Massacre was Death Stalker in 1983. After Death Stalker, she retired from show business to concentrate on her country music career. If you think Hospital Massacre would give Barbie Benton's movie career spark a slew of other starring roles, it nonetheless sparked a kick in her keister when you add up all her screen runtime consisted of running, kicking, screaming, bitching, and complaining. My God, she screams more than Kate Capshaw in the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Let's not forget her moments of getting ready for her up-and-close and personal exam. Cannon had to even print her name in big bold letters, hinting to the fact that there is a pretty lady here with big bosoms appearing in this picture. That was more or less a sign of having your film shot out of a cannon, for this reeked of a sad, desperate attempt to lure in viewers. Now, you would be surprised to know that Cannon reached out to an Australian financier to front his share of the money and agree to direct the picture. I'm guessing the stakes were too high for him that he got grilled on the spot by Golan and Globus in the Outback that he was terminated from the project. They later hired Boaz Davidson, who originally directed an earlier teen drama for Cannon Teen Mothers in 1980, as well as his first collaboration with Golan Globus with Lemon Popsicle in 1978. The film begins at Susan Jeremy's house, where she is playing with her trains with her friend called David.
I'm going. I like this. Come on, go faster. Come on.
Did he choose her? A boy later leaves a Valentine's card at the front door, knocks to get her attention, and flees back to the window to watch her open it. Looks like someone is thinking of Facebook stalking you this Valentine's Day. Well, unfortunately, she's not as nuts about him as she laughs that card came from Harold.
From Harold? Oh my gosh. Oh.
Harold? Why would you name a small child named Harold? That's like a 7-year-old's name. Right now, Harold is not sure if the empty feeling deep down at the pit of his stomach is feeling heartbroken or if he is just feeling hungry. Hey, we can't handle this long story, so let us just let her cut to the chase and get to the frickin' point already. Harold finds his way through the house, lifts David sky high, and impales him on a hat stand which, judging by his body weight, refuses to keel over. Well, we will go on ahead. David, you just hang around. We experience a leap year to 1980. Susan is now all grown up, starring as the Lady in Red beside her bitter ex-husband, singer Chris de Burgh. She says goodbye to her daughter Eva, to be picked up by her new beau Jack, to go off to the hospital to pick up some test results. Susan's ex is not sure for how long he can keep the daughter for the day.
Susan?
You're early, Tom.
Well, I've got a few things to do. Can't you take her now?
No, I can't. I've got to go to the hospital and get my test results. I'll see you at your place at 5 o'clock.
Tom, may your Valentine's Day be as free of parental responsibility as every other day of the year. You're failing her again, Tom.
Can't you get anything right?
Believe me, your lab results came in and they tested positive for sarcasm.
Knock it off.
Okay. So we have a traumatizing childhood event followed by a casual stroll to the doctor's office. This is playing more like a made-for-TV movie that offers very little additional information. So I'm guessing the police initially considered Harold a person of interest. But after briefly observing him for some time, they figured he was just not that interesting and was free to go. Not sure if this movie is on too many drugs or not enough drugs, because boy, Harold would be a nut in a fruitcake served to mental patients, because as they say, you are what you eat, Harold. Here's where Canon Films departs from conventional wisdom to sing out a different tune. With her mind worrying so much, it seems as if she descends into a Kafka-esque nightmare of weird intensity that conjures up childhood trauma of David's death. The film's slight disconnections with reality occur when she stops at the generic general hospital. Jack parks in a non-parking zone, but Susan assures him this will only take a few minutes.
This isn't going to take long, is it?
No, it'll just take a couple of minutes. Be right back.
Well, they say the last person whom parking in a no parking zone is still missing. He briefly gets aroused out of her, claiming that this is the hospital where some maniac ran amok last year.
What trouble?
Some patient ran amok or something.
Oh, please.
Sometimes I wish you were as generous with the plot and as God has been with your looks. Come on. With this movie title already, I bet your blood type is B negative. Is security that really a concern here? Or is this hospital pretty shitty? From the looks of it, I can tell they narrowed their security risk groups into two categories. Everyone who works here and everyone who doesn't work here. If she has a Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween 2 psychic connection with the killer, then what were the previous murders about? Or was the killer going on a dry test run? More importantly, was it even him to begin with? Because, may I remind you, Harold is a doctor in the hospital, and everyone knows who he is. So this must be one long fucking game of plotting a day's worth of murder. I guess that's why they call this the ICU.
Ta-da.
So, we arrive in the originally called movie title Waiting Room, where she checks in for an appointment with Dr. Jacobs.
Can I help you?
Yes, I'm here for the results of my checkup.
Name?
Susan Jeremy.
When were you examined?
Last week, 7th of February.
And your doctor?
Dr. Jacobs.
Dr. Beam, please report to the...
Paging Mr. Herman, paging Mr. Herman. We have a body fluid spill at front desk as our custodial worker Pee-wee drums his finger at Susan in quite a notably creepy fashion.
Dr. Beam, please report to the 4th floor.
I think this guy is dirtier than the floor. Inside the elevator, she is greeted by Dawn of the Drunk. propped up against the wall, bleeding a BLT all on her pristine white shoes. I'd say cheese is the missing glue that holds his life together.
You could be more careful.
Join me for dinner?
He comes off as a friendly and wishes her a happy Valentine's Day and leaves.
To admissions, please.
Happy Valentine's Day.
That concludes this episode of Valentine's Day for the confined couple. With her perfume making her smell irresistible and his drunk aroma smelling of cheap bourbon, cigars, and BLT on a sesame seed bun, their love is suffering from after morning sickness. The elevator takes her up to the top floor where she is greeted by George A. Romero's The Crazies, who are supposedly fumigating the whole 9th floor.
You shouldn't be up here, lady. We're fumigating this floor.
But the receptionist downstairs said the 8th floor.
This is the 9th floor. You better get out of here, kiddo. You're gonna get yourself the louse.
Perhaps one stop too far, because if this is the psych ward, she wouldn't be there unless she is faking it.
Help!
Her elevator journey to Dr. Jacobs' office takes a small delay and abruptly stops. So, this is just a few minutes, Canon. Man, time never stops at the standard rate of our office visits. While Susan is stuck, Dr. Jacobs is paged up to the 9th floor for no reason other than to enter in the combative patient's room where he comes in peace. She enters the 9th floor and finds that all the hospital staff, including the fumigators, have disappeared. Why doesn't she assume there's a prank that landed her on the set of Halloween 2? She opens a random door, checking to see if Michael Myers is playing a peek-a-boo on her. She then pulls back to the sheet to expose a corpse. Now that's a germicidal problem that not even industrial-sized baking soda can cure. Her curiosities into the unknown make no sense. Perhaps if this was all part of a plot of her being a college student, trying to grab the last few items of a scavenger hunt, like we saw with Jason Lively, discovering the preserved, the 1950s zombie and Night of the Creeps as part of her fraternity pledge imitation is one thing, but this makes no sense. Absolutely no fucking sense. Perhaps if this is all part of a byproduct of Susan's nightmare and delusions as we saw on Shutter Island. But that's the difference between two visions. A vision of a dynamic storyteller and one made by bona fide schmucks. Pee Wee Herman's custodial venture takes a turn for the worse as he discovers Dr. Jacobs hanging upside down in a locker room. Boy, the pressure really builds up when you go for 6 months without cleaning out your locker. He flags down Chief Surgeon who?
It's Dr. Jacobs. Someone's killed her. She's inside, hanging in the cabinet. Yo, Dr. Jacobs is dead. Hey, wait a minute. Yo, man, you gotta give me a hand here.
He runs off as he probably needs to reset the internal clock.
Hey, man, where are you?
Unfortunately for our defender of dirt and dust, his time is up as Dr. X springs out of nowhere to thrust his face into a vat of acid. Ooh, now that's one hot facial. Wow, that guy has no heart. And didn't somebody bother to tell him that the janitor was an undercover health insurance company lobbyist? This is when we hit the true monster of this story. Hospital bureaucracy. It's a bloody nightmare. None of the doctors are frank about what is wrong with her, other than holding up an x-ray that shows a giant worm.
Sorry, Susan, but I need an MD to countersign it.
Oh, come on.
No, it's hospital regulations.
Now would be a good time for tequila. Yes, tequila. The leading cause for women lowering their standards for years.
Well, you're a doctor, aren't you?
Sorry, just a humble intern coolie. Look, There's bound to be an MD around here someplace, so why don't we go find him?
Susan wants to know if she will be okay, and they reply with sort of, not really, but we need you to stay for 3 days just to make sure.
The results are inconclusive. We have to run some more tests.
But this whole checkup is just a
what?
A simple formality.
I'm guessing she must be a lawyer because their hospital's malpractice insurer forbids covering one.
I've been promoted and I just need some sort of medical certificate for my new insurance.
No checkup is ever just a simple formality, Miss Jeremy.
The creepiest thing in this hospital is that all the supporting characters all stare at her. Now this isn't your casual stare of feeling a sense of curiosity about someone you just met, but it's more of a perverted stare. It's one that undresses you slowly by the minute. This is not including her ex-husband and her daughter. I mean everyone from the doctors, nurses, janitors, fumigators, and patients. It was supposed to be a key in tying in the audience into the story as to who might be the killer. To that, or this movie is not offering self-awareness courses to our main character, for it takes 50 minutes to realize she's been fucked. But by then, Dr. Hakimoff, whom has already reorganized the hospital staff into several different body parts, I assume. So she arrives into the medical exam room for her checkup. To the creepy Dr. Saxton, whom has her submit like a dog by stripping her to panties and performing a very utterly awkward, unorthodox physical examination.
Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Out. Once again.
Jeez, I bet he didn't realize Christmas was not for another 10 months, but he thought he would ask for his gift right now. What is it? Does she have lung cancer? How can that be? She hasn't burnt herself once in this film.
This is your bed. Wait here.
How long is this going to take?
Not long, only till the results come in.
Oh, sorry, I stand corrected. Therefore, may your chemo give you superpowers. In Canon Films' defense, oh healthcare, we know nothing about the subject, but we will be happy to give you our most expert half-assed opinion.
Doesn't make sense. On the contrary, it's quite explicit. The symptoms are all wrong. In fact, the symptoms are totally non-existent.
Nurses Dora and Kitty are no more than lethal enforcers, not in it for medical practice, but rather to bound, gag, and enslave its patients.
Miss Jeremy, will you come along with us, please? Dr. Saxon is waiting for you. I see you, Hal. What are you doing?
Nothing, Miss Kitty. Just sightseeing.
Go back to your ward.
Now this is only the hospital staff. Wait until you meet the rest of the cuckoo's nest.
Hello?
After Dr. Giggles kills off a hospital assistant who was working on a report. Sorry, I'm not one to be an alarmist, so I am referring you to a specialist who is. At this point, you're already tuned into figuring out whom the killer is, which is the doctor, but he murders the person doing the report and then reappears in the room as himself to pick up the report. Yeah, we've already diagnosed you as a dumbass, but I guess he is coming in for a second opinion.
Doesn't make sense. On the contrary, it's quite explicit. The symptoms are all wrong. In fact, the symptoms are totally non-existent.
Then another lady enters to find the report. He redresses into his Dr. Butcher wear and chokes her out in the halls as she is kicking and screaming. I'm guessing this is all a laughing matter to him coping with life. After that, He football punts her on a wheelchair down a hallway. I'm guessing he found her clinically boring. Is this a hospital or are we on rented hallway time? The hallway, home of the homicide. In canon films, we don't call this plagiarism anymore. They like to think of it as more prepackaged originality. Speaking of prepackaged originality, it looks like canon films got your ghost Bob from Halloween, as the killer is later seen running down the hallway in a big white sheet, and I'm guessing the woman running must be terrified of being smothered by My Pillow. He then captures her in the sheet and then injects her while stumbling in the sheet for a while and then just leaves her. What can I say? You made your bed, now you can sleep in it. Is everyone in on this hospital hacking conspiracy? Because at one point, a nude man arrives and tries to solve the problem. By what? Raising a boner? Susan is later put into an observation room where she awaits her test results. And it is here she meets up with three old ladies. To these three old ladies, who claim to be agents and witnesses to be three witches of Macbeth clapping their spoons together, to rolling their rosary bears in the other, creating a witch-like acoustic jam session. Meanwhile, Jack is still parked in the no parking zone. Still all is good. He wasn't worked over with a sledgehammer, set on fire, or spray painted with rude slogans after being used in a getaway car in an incredible daring daylight robbery. It's so quiet he even takes a siesta. Maybe there was a miscommunication when Jack and Susan first met when she said, "I thought you were interesting," upon which he replied, "No, Susan, I said I was into resting." It must be wonderful coming to the set every day and being completely useless. He then later arises like Lazarus and makes it into a room where Dr. Evil is right behind him, where he whispers, "A little too much information, but I'm pretty sure his bedroom costume consists of a pull toy." But unfortunately, he wasn't that headstrong. Well, that's not a way to get ahead in life. The killer later has an epiphany that he has had enough of serial kill playtime and decides to prepackage a Valentine's gift to Susan featuring her boyfriend's severed head. Hope you like head cheese. This is enough for her to do the hysteria dance as she does a few laps around the hospital. She later finds a room where she turns the light on. "Sorry, but your lack of safety does not turn me on." The revelation finds her discovering three people in casts. Are they going to take their medicine, or does the killer have to play hardball? So, she starts screaming and they start screaming, and it's just another day of outward smiles and inward screams. The nurses and doctors catch up with her and find her to quite hysterical and take her back into the room with the present all wrapped up.
Go ahead, open it.
She claims there is a head in there and the staff open it up to reveal that it is a cake.
So, you have an unknown admirer, Susan.
It was Jack's hand!
It was only a nightmare, Susan.
The hell it was!
Hey now, it's not the time to lose one's head. We still have a half hour left. What can I say? The butcher in the house is a true craftsman. He is really building a foundation of murder and mayhem. Oh wait, Sleepy Burger Man grabs Susan and attempts for a sexual assault.
Give me a cigarette. What are you doing sneaking around this place? I bet you're waiting for your boyfriend, huh?
I'm trying to escape out of here.
What's your big rush? You know, stick around. How about a little kiss?
Amateur. The way real psychos win over a girl is with chloroform. Honestly, does he survive or get flame broiled? Due to Susan's increased hysteria, one of the doctors feel that if she doesn't calm down, they will have to operate.
Keep her under observation. If there's any more of this, I'm gonna have to
I'm
operate.
trying to tell you something. Why don't you listen to me?
Try to sleep, Susan.
Right!
I'm afraid the doctors are still trying to figure out what disease goes with her insurance. That's not until the doctor spits out blood. God, that's going to be all over YouTube. Our climax has reached its zenith, where Dr. Strangelove steals Susan from the wild old ladies of Resident Evil and wants to take her into the operating room to cut her up. I guess unethical ethics are better than no ethics at all. He later reveals to no surprise it is Harold, whom at one point was referred to as Dr. Harry.
Remember? It's Harold. It's not Harry, it's Harold. Remember? It's not Harry, it's Harold. Remember?
We must be coming down with double vision because we could have sworn another doctor in a similar Dr. Butcher-sized stature and gown peered into Susan in the room with Dr. Harry. Now there are multiple killers? Well then, if nursing were an Olympic sport, this hospital would get last place in the bed alarm speed trials. Susan pleads as to what Harold wants, and it reveals he is after sole possession of her heart. Well, she must be a romance novelist enthusiast, but it is not uncommon to experience heavy breathing. Unfortunately, his only weakness stops him: the Golden Wiccan girls.
Is that you, Dr. Jacobs?
The brief diversion is enough for Susan to grab a spiky thing and stab him in the stomach. Now that's gutsy. They play cat and mouse for a while, but then they have a struggle that is out of sight, out of mind, that leads them all the way up to the roof. Boy, when the killer worked this plan out, he sure underestimated the man hours in this. Then he gets doused in petrol oil, where Susan grabs her lighter and goodness gracious, great balls of fire, he just goes off like Elton John's Rocket Man blasting off to his doom. I had no idea the doctor's coats were made of polyester. Super flammable. What we see is not a stunt, but a mannequin falling off the roof as it hits the ground. What can I say? She was great, but he faked it the whole time. Nothing personal. Most of us can agree that hospitals are always well staffed with well-trained medical professionals working around the clock to suit your needs. However, this one looks more like a hospital going into transition, moving to a new hospital building because of the operations of this hospital don't strike me as realistic. Then you add to the fact that the production crew were only given just a few abandoned floors of a hospital to shoot on with the agreement that they will only shoot on nights where they are not disturbing any of the real patients in need of care. Yeah, that doesn't score much points in the credibility department canon. As far as the killers revealed to be Harold, you must be pulling our leg because it undeniably is funny. You're telling me that the main killer is going to go through all of this trouble And going through medical school to obtain his degree, all to work at the same hospital Susan goes to exact his revenge 10 years after his childhood rejection? Or was Harold guilty of falsifying his medical credentials, passing himself off as a doctor to amok slashing victims hiding in the abandoned hospital wings every time Susan comes in for a checkup or a follow-up appointment? Okay, so it's not Dial M for murder, but it's not a bad slasher movie. It could have dive-bombed headfirst into the shitter like New Year's Evil, but I've seen worse. I still coin it as one of the most far-fetched situational horror movies. How can Susan be the only one with a bad feeling that the shit is about to go on while the others turn a blind eye? It may have appeared that way too with Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2, but at least she had the help of a few hospital staff who were clued into the sudden sense of impending doom. Even before her fight or flight mode be kicking in for her to find her boyfriend and evacuate the hospital immediately. The fact that everyone is suspected to be a killer makes this look like a canned, corny detective comedy. Bottom line, it's too over the top to be taken serious as a horror film, that it ought to be labeled as a horror spoof comedy. Throughout the years, director Boaz Davidson has had to dodge question of being interrogated as to whether this was meant to be a comedy or a horror piece. Although he denies that he never had the intention of creating a comedy, but we just like to treat it as it is to make sense out of a horror film that doesn't make sense. Does that make sense now? They say confusion can be a lifelong journey in the realm of canon films, and the element of confusion is best looked better sideways as canon reinvents the mystical convert ancient art of assassination in Enter the Ninja in our next edition. Stay tuned.
Canon Films presents an outstanding lineup of films for major filmmakers, major stars, major motion pictures.
hire. Then what were you doing working for Frank Landers? He was my friend. You killed him, and now I'm gonna kill you.